Good morning, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well this Saturday morning. We got a full day of college football action in front of us, but we can't forget about the main attraction. We are about 28 and a half hours away from kickoff here in Seattle against the Atlanta Falcons. And before I talk about this game in any capacity, I will be streaming it. This was the game that I talked about trying to stream. It's an afternoon game. I'm going to get to be able to watch the morning games on my own time, and I'll be able to go ahead and stream this one on YouTube. Going to follow along, do play by play, talk to people in the chat. Haven't done this for a regular season game in a little while, but I have done it before, and it generally works quite well, so I think we're going to have some fun with it. And hopefully we win, but either way, I'll be able to kind of break down every little thing that happens. So if you want to come by and have fun there, then make sure you tune in. So yeah, that out of the way, let's go ahead and just talk about this game. Falcons coming to town, and quite simply to kind of sum it all up, this game, it's not about proving that you're a good team. I don't think you can prove that you're a good team against a team like the Falcons, who just aren't particularly good this year. Their efforts to even be good this year were limited. They have a stopgap bridge quarterback in Mariota. They lost their number one receiver to a suspension for the year, and they kind of worked to replace him, but that wasn't really the intent of that. So you've got that going on. You've got a defense filled with young players who I like, but aren't really contributing yet. You add it all up, and you just have a team that belongs near the bottom of the league. So winning this game doesn't prove that you're a good team, but taking care of business can prove that you're not one of the worst teams. And this is what this is about. Because I've said many times this year that I don't believe the Seahawks are going to be one of the worst teams in the league. I thought they were going to be pretty bad, 6 to 7 wins, something like that, but I didn't think we were a 3-win or 4-win team. I don't think we're that bad. And some people will say, hey, we already proved that's the case because we beat Denver. Yeah, kind of, but there are more steps after that Denver win to prove that you're not one of the worst teams. You're just another bad team, another bad season, and this is an opportunity to continue to prove that narrative. That's kind of how I'm looking at this one. And as for this game, the Falcons, first two games, their offense has moved the ball and put up points, but you look at their offense, you don't see a whole lot that instills fear in you as a defense. Marcus Mariota is one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the league. He's playing okay so far this year. Honestly, I think even though Atlanta's putting up a lot more points, you could argue that Geno's been a little bit better. And Geno hasn't been particularly good, so that's a condemnation on Mariota. Their offensive line has not been good. They're missing Elijah Wilkinson in this game as well, so it gets a little bit worse. The tackles have been kind of okay, but the offensive line in general has been a weakness. The receivers have been okay. Drake London's actually off to a really nice start to his career. He's made some plays, but Kyle Pitts has been a complete non-factor. And behind Drake London at receiver, they just have a collection of guys who are, in some respects, playing pretty decent football, but they're not game breakers. They're not top talents. They're not guys who really just shift the balance of a game. So you boil it all down, and maybe the best thing you can say about this Falcons team is they have a very fun X factor in their backfield in Cordarrelle Patterson. That might be other than, I guess, Drake London, that's probably the best part of their offense. That's the part of their offense that I kind of like, that kind of appeals to me. So looking at this Falcons offense, I don't see a whole lot. And I look at this Seahawks defense, and I see a defense that made some plays against Denver, but really, really didn't get anything positive done against the 49ers. Playing a 49ers team that was crippled, and they still marched the ball up and down the field on you. Somehow you only allowed 27 points, which is actually, the way that game went, you're lucky it wasn't 40. But didn't really do anything well in that game. Now you've got another opportunity against an offense that is probably going to be near the bottom of all NFL offenses that you play this year. There were reasons why you had a letdown game last week against the Niners. You were coming off that big win against Denver, short week on the road, Niners desperate. But it was still a humbling game, an embarrassing game for you. And as a defense that has so far this year bent very, very far, like we are bending backwards, we are bending in loop-de-loops, and trying to be that team that doesn't break. We need a little more this week. I want to see some turnovers like we had that first game against Denver, the couple of punch-outs in the red zone. More of that. Haven't had an interception yet this year. Let's get one of those. You're playing an offensive line that has some problems. And look, Darrell Taylor's been hearing it this week from, I have to believe he's aware, right? Darrell Taylor's been hearing it. He's not playing well. He's not helping this team win right now. So you're playing against an offensive line that isn't great, a quarterback that, if you make him throw the ball 30-plus times, is probably not going to be an asset to his team. Probably not going to be a net positive. Playing a team that will probably try to run the ball a bunch at the start to try to keep the game out of Mariota's hands. And we all know what Taylor's doing against the run so far. He's got a little something to prove this week. Same for Taylor's representative of it, but the whole pass rush, after the pathetic effort against the 49ers, got to give me something. Secondary. A lot of young players in that secondary. I'm not really mad at them, but it was a messy game against the Niners. A lot of penalties, a lot of sloppy play. These guys have something to prove now. These guys need to prove that last week was the worst version of themselves, and they can become the better versions of themselves going forward. So if this is another game where we bend and bend and bend and bend, and either we don't break or we break, and that decides whether or not the game goes our way or not, then it's going to start to be like, if we can barely stop ourselves from breaking against an offense like the Falcons, what in the world are the Lions going to do to us? What about the Rams? What about these other teams that have better offenses than the Falcons? So Kyle Pitts, the Falcons want to get him involved because he hasn't really been involved the first two games. So that's a challenge. That's a challenge. Quandre Diggs injured. I think he's going to play. It sounds like he's going to play, but not 100%. Linebackers have really struggled in coverage so far, so I don't know what you throw at Kyle Pitts, but you better be prepared to throw something at him that isn't just, oh, we'll let Jordan Brooks take care of it, or, oh, we'll just sit back in our cover three, knowing that he's just going to find the soft spots in those zones, and we're going to let him get 12 catches. Like, it needs to be something a little more than that, because just like there's going to be a concerted effort from the Seahawks to get Metcalf involved going forward because of the first two games, you're going to see something similar from the Falcons, and if you don't have a plan to mitigate that, then I think you're going to have a rude awakening. So, yeah, Falcons offense, it's got problems, it's weak, should be able to do some damage on them. Let's see it. And the Seahawks offense, I'm kind of torn. This Falcons defense, they have some nice pieces that I like, but a lot of them are too young to be big-time contributors right now. Love Troy Anderson. D'Angelo Malone, awesome. AJ Terrell. AJ Terrell's a little different. AJ Terrell's actually like one of the better corners in the league at this point. He's not somebody who's so young that he can't contribute, but throw him in there too. They have some other rookies on that team that I'm relatively fond of on that defense. I can't remember all their names, but they had a great draft, right? Like Troy Anderson. Arnold Ebiketie. I'm sorry. Completely spaced on that name. But yeah, Ebiketie. These are guys who I really liked in the draft. These are guys who I had in mind as potential Seahawks. but they're not playing that much right now. And it's left them with a defense that has Grady Jarrett, who's actually playing well so far this year, but is kind of miscast as a 3-4 down lineman. And they have A.J. Terrell, like I said, he's good. And then it's like, okay, they don't have Deion Jones right now. He's out. So, again, if you want to prove that you are not one of the worst teams in the league, like a complete bottom feeder, you have to look at this Falcons defense and go, this is our chance to actually produce, which is obviously what we did not do against the 49ers at all. So I want to run the ball. I want to run. I want to feed it to Penny, feed it to Walker, feed it to Homer, feed it to DJ if need be. I want to find a way to run the ball because through the first 2 games, it's been really bad. It's been beyond pathetic. And there are a few things going on there. For one, Austin Blythe doesn't seem like he's a good run blocker at all, especially when you just try to run power up the gut. So you got to get him in space. You got to run to the outsides. Got to start seeing that stuff. We saw it a little bit against Denver, but it was gone against the 49ers. So you got to find a way to start running to the outside here, because trying to run up the gut behind Austin Blythe is not working. He that clearly not his game at all. So you got to run the ball, but you also have to run the ball well. That's the key thing that people, I think, sometimes miss when they say we need Team X to run the ball. No, you need to run the ball well. Nobody's benefiting if you're running the ball for 2 yards a carry. So find something that works and utilize it. I know it's there, but you actually have to implement it. I saw it in the preseason. I saw it at the end of the season last year. So find what works on the ground game and utilize it. And one of the big things that is going to help with that will be opening up the offense a little bit when you're throwing the ball. Through the first 2 games, we've had Geno Smith throw the ball a lot, and he's thrown the ball short. He's thrown the ball 10 yards or less from the line of scrimmage. His air yards are way, way down low, which, okay, that kind of makes sense. This is a Shane Waldron, Sean McVay offense. A lot of short throws, a lot of intermediate stuff, not a ton of pushing the ball down the field, but we've seen practically none of it through the first 2 games. And it's really compressing the field. It's really forcing the offense to have to work harder to move the ball because the safeties don't have to be as afraid of things over the top. Corners don't have to be as afraid of things over the top. And what's more than even all of that, you've got DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, 2 of the best deep threats in the league over the recent stretch of seasons they've been in the NFL, and you're not letting them get anything going down the field. So when you do throw the ball, I'm hoping you throw the ball less, but you do take a few shots. There needs to be some common ground here. Last year, Wilson threw the ball deep way too much. His air yards were higher than ever, which made no sense in this new offense. And I think that was one of the main reasons why he got pushed out of here, because we were trying to implement this new offense where the air yards were going to go down, and he just kept chucking it 50 yards down the field. It didn't work. It not only was it not in tune with the new offense, it was also just not working nearly as well as it used to. His air yards were up, but his actual success rate on those deep passes went down. But so far this year, it's been way too far in the other way. No deep shots whatsoever. You got to loosen up that defense. You got to make these safeties afraid that, hey, they could get beat over the top if they don't respect it. So find that happy medium, reduce the number of passing attempts, run the ball, and I believe good things can happen. This will never be a great offense, but it can be an okay offense. It can be a decent offense, especially against this Falcons defense. Not a whole lot of pass rush over there on the Falcons sideline. They have a couple of studs in Grady Jarrett and A.J. Terrell, but other than that, I see some pieces that I like. Overall, you got to be able to move the ball and put up points against this team, or else if you can't do it against this team, you're going to struggle to do it against just about anybody. So, bottom line is, find a way to get the run game going the way it was in the preseason. Whatever it is, if it's running Wildcat for 15 snaps a game. Do that. Just find something that works, because last week was embarrassing. I think that's really about it. We're not talking about proving ourselves to be like a good team or a playoff team, of course. I'm not there yet. I'm not even worried about that yet. It's still September. All right, that'll come. A few weeks from now, if we're beating on the good teams that we're going to play, like the Bucks, the Chargers, the Chiefs in December, January, or whenever. I think it's December. Like, if that happens, then we can start saying, hey, we are proving ourselves against the best in the league. This is a playoff team. This is not about that. This is just prove that you're not one of the bottom feeders. And this Falcons team, I mean, they even know it, okay? They're not trying to be all that good this year. They're just throwing out what they have, and they're waiting for next year. Next year, they're going to have a new quarterback, probably Ritter. They're protecting him right now, partially because I think their offensive line is so bad. They're going to have a year of experience for their guys like Ebiketie, Malone, Troy Anderson. That triumvirate of defensive players is really good. And they might break through. But this year, they are a team that is just kind of waiting to win 4 or 5 games. So you get them at home, get it done. They're traveling, 2,500 miles to get to you. So you've got a big advantage right then and there. I do acknowledge you're going to get their best shot because they're 0-2, and 0-3 is pretty much a death sentence in the modern NFL. But so be it. Like, you can't depend on your opponent just rolling over and taking it. So hopefully, I am rooting for this team to win. I want to be clear about that as well. I know some people have started the tank talk. I'm not on that wagon. If the team loses, then so be it. I get it. If the team loses a lot of games this year, then it's not worth sweating about. But while the team is playing games, I want them to put their best foot forward and try to win. And at the end of the day, I would rather have a team that is, say, 10 or 11 wins than a team with 3 or 4 wins going into the offseason. Yeah, you lose the pick value a little bit, but what does it say about the health of your current roster that you managed to win all those additional games? A lot. Just something to keep in mind. All right, so go in against the Falcons at home. I'm going to say we find a way to do it, 27-24. I'm going to say we win. And appreciate that, because it may be the last time you hear me say that for a little while. We'll have to see. We'll get to that when we get to it, I guess. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks.